girls, welcome to El Poder de la Mujer, the Power of Women, the Latina Leadership Series. I hope you are enjoying our interviews and really celebrating Hispanic heritage. It's our time. It's time to celebrate being Latinas across this country and across the world. And we are so excited that today we have the comadre de las comadres with us, a very seasoned friend. I don't want to say old, Nora Comstock. And I can't wait for you to meet her. She's an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, a community builder, an educator, and an advocate for women, especially Latinas. And she was selected by Hispanic Life magazine as a Latina of influence. And what I want to tell you is she also received a lifetime award from the American Association of Retired People, AARP, which is a really important thing as our generations change. So Nora and I have been friends for a very long time. She was a National Hispano Leadership Institute fellow, and she may not remember this, but she was very involved with the International Latino Book Club or International Latino Book Awards when my book, The Power of Latino Leadership, won for the best leadership book. And Nora and I were roomies at the conference. We all know how we have to save money and do different things for people to be able to participate. So that was a lot of fun. Nora, why are we wearing flowers? First of all, Las Flores.
Well, Las Flores is one of our comadres at one point said, when we have events, comadres go. And of course, we don't know all our comadres, a huge number of us. And said, how do we identify each other? And say, okay, we're red. You got to do this, do that. And she said, well, let's just put a flower in our hair.
So all of you run out and get a flower. That means you're a comadre. We're going to talk much more about that. So welcome, Nora, from the bottom of my heart. And Nora is in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Right? Are you a Tejana by birth?
I am.
I want to hear a little bit about your story and your family and how did you get to where you are today? But let's start with your familia.
Born in the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas, Raymondville, and grew up there. I guess in my freshman year of high school, I left there, went to San Antonio. My aunt wanted me to help her with the kids, and she paid for a private school so I could be there. And so I studied at Providence High School and then took care of the kids.
San Antonio, tell us about the little town, because this is a big deal for those women that were born in rural areas.
Absolutely. Well, Raymondville was a very small town. It was a very difficult relationship with the Latinos have always been less, that, and
it's on the border.
It's about 40 miles from the border.
Well, that's the border.
Inland.
And for those of you that don't know, Texas is the frontera, the border state. And not only did many of our organizations start there because of the incredible prejudice after the Mexican-American War, but Latinos in Texas are still struggling to make their mark.
Very, very much so. And so I was born there, lived there, and just a very short aside is that I actually was adopted. My aunt and my uncle adopted me, my biological parents. My brother always said if dad looked at mom, she got pregnant. So, they said, no problem here. My aunt and uncle couldn't have children, so I was a gift.
Isn't that beautiful? How many kids did your actual birth parents have?
10.
10.
Yeah. And there could have been more.
Taking a deep breath. And again, part of our series is really intergenerational. So we're going to have some young Latinas and some more seasoned Latinas, but we want you to think about that. Like my mother had 8 children, and in the previous generations, large families, which is one of our hallmarks as Latinos, were just what happened. But let me give you this tidbit. Up to the 1920s, the average woman did have like 7 or 8 kids because there was no birth control. So women, birth control is one of the main reasons we're able to have careers today. And also, raising 8 children today wouldn't be so easy. But I love the idea that you were a gift. What a treasured thing. It all depends how we look at things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people may be saying, oh, this was so terrible. And you're saying, what a gift. So
well, but it's interesting.
Spoiled as an only child.
I was very spoiled. And then my aunt and uncle adopted a cousin for their mom died. And so they adopted a boy. And so it was a boy and a girl, very similar in age. He was a year younger. And so we grew up together as, a brother and sister. And then I had my 10 or 9 brothers and sisters with my biological family
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, so where did your adopted aunt and uncle, where'd they live?
in Raymondville. Everybody lived
Okay,
in
so you were
Raymondville.
right in the same town. Yeah, I love that. When I was a young girl, we had several cousins come. One of them who was misbehaving, and you would also do that. If somebody was misbehaving, you'd send them to a TIA or you'd send them somewhere so that they would get straightened out, really. There
Yep,
would be
yep.
a new environment and everything. But what a beautiful story. And tell me a little bit about your parents, the ones that raised you.
My dad was a carpenter and my mom was a salesperson. And when I left Raymondville, I slowly pulled, well, it wasn't easy leaving Raymondville. Okay. Dad said no. And mom said, excuse us. They went into another room. They came back and I went to San Antonio.
Oh.
Okay.
I have to say, your mother was looking out for the best in you. It was like when I went away to college, it was just, oh my God, she's leaving home.
Yeah.
My parents wanted what was best for me.
Yeah.
And they made such sacrifices in order for that to happen. So there you are, you go to San Antonio and.
So first mom came with me and then dad stayed because my brother was still in high school there. And then when he graduated, they moved to San Antonio and then San Antonio became our home. Though we always went to the Valley to visit family and so on, and still do. I have a very special place in my heart for the Rio Grande Valley. And then I was in San Antonio, went to a private school, and I started there at San Antonio Community College. That's what it was called at the time. And then from there, at Providence, it was a private school. It was a challenging environment, did a lot of work, loved every minute of it. And all my friends, my family did not talk about college. Okay. I did not learn about college at home. They talked about hard work. They talked about graduating from high school, but no one talked about college. But in my high school, everybody was going to college. Hey, which college are you going to? I said, I'm not going to college. She said, well, we're going to Tech. Come on, come with us. Come register. So I went and I registered. And wow, it was, I love learning. I love learning. And so there I was in this environment when all the stuff was happening and all the student associations and all the stuff that happens in college. I loved every minute of it. I did.
Wow. This interview isn't about me, but the same thing happened to me. I actually got a job to pay for a scholarship, half a scholarship to a private school. It was an academy, Catholic,
Of course.
And that's what this exact same story. That's where I went to college. My parents were shocked. They had never even thought of that.
Yeah,
My
right.
mother had a 5th grade education.
Right.
But, that was so important for our generation to start opening the doors and allowing people to go to college. And the fact of the matter is that today we have an educated class because of that. Like there are educated Latinos, both in our generation and much more with the younger ones.
Well,
So
and it's
tell me
wonderful.
about your college experience and how did you figure out what you were going to study and stuff?
Oh my God. That was a challenge. I wanted to be everything. I did everything I read. I wanted to do that. And I wanted to do the next thing and wanted to, whatever. And then I wanted to be a physician. It's really a good thing that I didn't because I wanted to be a surgeon and I don't have the steadiest of hands. So and can't hold things the way I never could, but I wanted to be a surgeon. So
Well, you have to go with your skills and talents, right?
yeah, that's kind of the direction I headed. So there was the math and the science and all those many things that I was doing. And then psychology and then, art and music never appealed to me because I don't have any of that talent. I was interested, but I knew I couldn't do those things.
Yeah, well, that's really great because that's so important, when you are going to plan your career or when you're thinking about what to do in the future or what to study in college or it goes on and on, you really have to go with your strengths.
Yeah,
And that we can't do everything, right?
right.
So what a great thing, like numbers, engineering, I could never do that.
Yes, I went a different
Yeah,
direction.
well-
I went into the arts, the humanities.
Yeah. So let's take a little jump here. What are some of the hallmarks of your career? Because I met you when you were already working on comadres and doing different things. And then I go online and see all the things you've accomplished, including your PhD at 42 and so forth. Give us a little bit of, here's some highlights of your career and how you got there. How did that door open?
You know, I have such gratitude for the comadres and compadres in my life. I don't know where I'd be without them because actually, whatever I've done, it's like somebody opened a door for me.
Yes.
I met people who said, come here, do this. You're good at this. I always had curiosity. And so I was always invited into things to learn, to be a part, or I would find my way in, maybe it was an exclusive club. I found my way in. If I was interested in being there, I found a way to get there. And then I
love
just,
that lesson.
yeah, just, do it, nobody, I've always, one of my favorite things is nobody tells me no. And I always said that, but today, nobody tells me no.
Let's repeat that. But nobody tells me no. In fact, we're going to be talking to Elizabeth Suarez, who teaches negotiation. And she says, when they tell you no, game's on.
Game on. That's right. Yeah. But
Game's
I want
on.
to do that. So I keep doing things that take me in the direction of what I want to do.
Right. It's persistence, which is a huge leadership trait. You can't give up.
Can't give up. So again, people opened doors for me. Next thing I knew, I was going to the University actually, I went to the University of Oklahoma for a little while, and then came back to Austin and worked there. And went to the University of Texas at Austin. But I also worked for American Airlines for a little while as a on the ticket counter and dealt with all kinds of emergencies and all kinds of stuff going on, constant learning. And I was one of the first. They had a terminal at the counter that did minor things. Believe me, this was a long time ago, but I learned how to use it to communicate with people all over the system. Nobody else had ever tried. So I was intrigued, and I went in there and I figured out how to communicate with people in Philadelphia and Dallas. And, it was fascinating. And that, was part of my interest. And then, I
do want to say something about that because for younger people, when you're looking at purpose, and we're going to talk about that, when you look back on your life, you figure out, wow, now you are very involved in technology with Las Comadres because it's an international network. And think about this. How old were you? Just give me a ballpark when you're sitting there at American Airlines.
21.
21 years old, and you're learning something that technology's coming.
That's right. I was reading the manuals and trying to figure it all out.
Digital natives with our young people. That's just amazing to me and so when you have your purpose and you look back, you go, wow, I was beginning to think about technology when I was 21 years old before it was really on the scene. So the other, like for me, I worked my way through college being a waitress, and you were learning the same skills I was. How do you deal with people? How do you figure out what people need? How do you have that service orientation? How do you remember what, there's so many things that you're learning regardless of your job that later become skills that you need both as a leader, as an organizational builder, and as an educator.
Mm-hmm. Well, after American Airlines, we moved to Austin to go to college. And I went to work at the University of Texas Press. And I was surrounded by people who wrote, people who read, people who edited, people who purchased manuscripts. So the love of that whole publishing industry began for me there. And I was thrilled. Our director ended up leaving at some point, and then he went to a different press, and he called me and he said, I'd like for you to come with me. I was thrilled, but I couldn't leave Austin. We didn't leave Austin, but he called and said, I think you're one of the people I want to take with me. And I was honored. Truly honored.
Well, again, this is because one of the things Las Comadres does, which I think is so important, is encourage Latinas to read and to share their knowledge and information. And here you are at a young age in college. It's really funny because I worked on the school newspaper in high school and in college, and now I'm a writer.
Well,
I always tell young people, don't think that you're not preparing yourself for your future. So use your young years as kind of building blocks, not only to find out what you're good at, but to open that door. Because one of the things about purpose, which is so interesting, is that it will put forth, if you're really committed to serving, to growing yourself, to being engaged in your life, opportunities will show up.
But you
and will
don't
help
even know.
you.
Yeah.
That
You
will
don't know they're going to
prepare
show
you.
up. Yeah.
But you don't know that till you look back.
Right. That's right. And so from the University of the Press, then I it took me 10 years to finish a BA. So what I
10
can say
years
to
to
you,
finish your PhD, ladies, you just take the first step. If that's what you want to do, if you want to get a BA, if you want to finish your high school degree, get with it because the years will pass and you'll have it as
you just keep going.
yeah.
And I
it'll be
say,
one of those things.
I don't take no for an answer,
I
right?
don't take no. For
I figure out how to get there and I keep going. You know, I always worked while I was in school and all those years. I mean, I just,
yeah.
that's
Well,
what you do.
let's take a little bit of a leap forward. What was your most, before you started doing so much community work and your work with the Latino International Book Awards and so forth, were some of your favorite jobs that actually put you on the map to do the kind of work you're doing today? Like your more professional accomplishments.
I went to work at a high-tech startup company. One of the greatest experiences one could ever have.
High-tech startup.
I mean, I'm telling you, we were scrappy, working hard, building systems that called black boxes. I mean, I worked on a system called Unix. That was the software that we used. Today, I still use Unix. And I started from scratch. I really didn't know anything, but I was very, very interested, as you know, in technology. And so I was there and I became their a marketing kind of assistant. And I wrote programs at that time, not using code, but using various pieces of software that people got millions of dollars to start companies for. I did that at it was called Cybe Systems. I did that at Cybe Systems, but I didn't know that I was in territory that other people hadn't actually done these things on. If I had known, I would have gone out and started my own company with that stuff that I had built.
And we'd be talking to a millionaire now.
I built it from nothing. I put those pieces together and created things that nobody was doing. And years later, somebody said, you know, they got $1 million for doing this. I'm like, what? I wrote that 10 years ago. Anyway, so I loved working at
that is a very important lesson for people that are listening, because I do want to say this, by the way, Latinos started 80% of the small businesses, according to the last census. And so we have an entrepreneurial spirit, regardless of where we are. You can
It's
be
true.
in a corporation, but you're still got that entrepreneurial, can-do, innovative spirit.
Well, our parents had to survive.
That's how we made it here. Our
They
resources,
figured
our
out how to
creativity,
survive.
our ability to do more
Absolutely.
with less. So listen to this, folks, because Nora's telling you that if she would have started her own startup, we'd all be sitting pretty right now. So be thinking about it, because those of you that work for other people or that work in a corporation and are learning certain skills, it may be your time to shine, because I really do believe our community right now has got to develop an economic base. And we really have to have more assets. So, and this is up to you all, the young ones that are listening. You got to move us forward. We put some building blocks here, but it's up to you.
Well, it's
So
really
that was
important.
a great one.
It's really important to understand that in today's world, owning a house may not be possible for everybody. So how do you build wealth? A business builds wealth. So if you are trying to figure that out, just think about it. Yes, you were able to house, you've got a house, but a business is another way to build wealth and leave it to your family.
Yeah, and I think we have a knack for that. You know, both you and I have done business development. So, okay, one more career shot, and then we're going to get into some of the personal stuff.
Oh, one more. I'm supposed to tell you.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, you got your PhD and you were an educator. Let's hear about that.
That's right. That's right. Well, again, the PhD, it was one of those things. I was an administrative assistant, or no, I was running a journal. And I was not an administrative assistant. I was the administrator for the journal. And my boss was the dean of, he was a dean at the University of Texas. I don't remember which job he had. But I said, I want to do more. I want to do what you're doing.
I want you to repeat that. Go to your boss. I want to do more. I'm ready for a challenge.
I'm ready to do more. I said, I want to do what you do. How do I get there? And he said, well, let's look around. So he said, you have to do blah, blah, blah. And here's the path. And I was, okay, how do I, he knew I had 2 kids. He knew I had no money, all those many things. And so he said, here's a scholarship at the community college program here. And he said, let's, if you're interested in it, here's some other things to look at. But that's the one that interested me the most. So I went and applied and was able to get in and had some support. I still had to work. They hired me in the program to start consulting. I ended up consulting with and traveled all over the country,
So
working
you're
in
really
community
still
colleges.
working in publications, books, journals.
Yeah.
That's such a great gift because we don't have that kind of talent developed as well in our community. So that was, and again, you're talking about how people helped you. And I think part of it, Nora, from knowing you is having that open heart and believing that we can help each other, which is really one of the foundations of Comadres that we'll be talking about. But your life really is a path that shows how much people can help and develop people.
Well, and the most important takeaway that I want to leave you with, I asked, I asked him about how I could get how I could find out more, how I could get to be in doing things like he was doing. He didn't
Yeah.
come to me and say, hey, I think, though it works both ways. Some people saw it in me and pulled me that direction. But him, I had to ask because I
Yes.
was running a journal. I
Right,
was
right,
doing
right.
something different
Right.
than what I wanted to do.
But I do want to say this because, sometimes younger people think that they can just ask and, ask and you shall receive. You have to do your work. You have to be really good. When you say you're ready for another challenge, you got to have everything buttoned down and ready to go. Because if you want to be promoted, if you want to move up, and if you want to ask, I'm ready for a new challenge, make sure you're really ready and that you've done your homework, that you're able to contribute.
Well, and I
Because,
asked for things.
yeah.
I have to come back to there was a big international conference for these types of Hispanic journals, and all of the professors were going. And I said, I want to go. They've never sent somebody like me to their meetings. And I said, I want to go meet all these people whose articles come in and that I work with every day. I want to meet these people. I want to go. And it was the first time
Mhm.
that
Let me
anybody
throw
had
this in because I'll probably be throwing it in a lot. I was director of Mikasa Women's Center in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And every single Latina that went through our program needed to take an assertiveness training course. Because as Latinas, we're taught to be polite, to wait our turn. We take care of everybody else and make sure everybody else is cómodo, comfortable, and everything else. But there is this assertiveness where you have to ask, particularly when you're dealing with a culture where I and taking care of yourself and numero uno is important. So everybody else is doing it, and you need to really, we as Latinas really need to understand our worth and also to be able to ask, Latinos work really hard, but sometimes we work hard and not smart, and we got to be smart about what we're doing as well. Well, that is just a wonderful thing. So, in addition to your accomplishments in your career, I want to talk a little bit about the AARP award and what that means and some of the ways you've been recognized. And then we're going to, maybe look at one of your challenges and then jump right into Las Comadres because I can't wait for people to hear about this. So, yeah, tell us about some of the recognitions you've received for your work and why that's important for Latinos to be recognized like that.
Well, I didn't even know it was important to be recognized. I mean, it never occurred to me.
No, you're one of the most humble people I've ever met, which is a good lesson for folks that you can be a great leader and you have to be present, but you don't have to be tooting your horn all the time.
No, yeah, people, I just, I guess one of the most important awards was Mentor of the Year for one of my students in elementary school. Oh my God.
Oh, how wonderful.
I got that 2022. And really, that one of all of them, that's probably, besides having my own children, that was absolutely, it meant so much to me. But the AARP award is definitely, of course, a highlight of the awards because it came with money.
Oh, I love it.
all the other awards that I've received, their accolades, and you get a little thing in the plaque, and I have them in cabinets and everywhere. And people acknowledge me, but you really have to understand Las Comadres is only alive today because of our comadres. I
Right.
don't make anything. It's not me, it's them. So I actually, whatever award I received, I really receive it in their name, because if they were not a part of our organization, I wouldn't do the things that I'm doing. I wouldn't be recognized because, as you indicated, there's at least 10,000 comadres out there. And all those people do things in their communities. They're active. They are a support system to each other. They're to our families, to our communities. Those awards are for them. And I was the representative. I stood up and received the award and brought it home. But actually, it's in their name. And I do have to say that my husband, Jack Bell, he's a tech whiz. And if it weren't for him, none of us would be here as far as online and doing that kind of stuff.
Which is another Latina trademark. I just did a community meeting with one of our Latinas, and her sons and daughters were there, and everybody was helping. And when I was running Mi Casa, my daughters were young, and they would be hostesses at events. I think it's important. And you know why? Because then the family begins to be a service-oriented family. I'm very proud that my grandson just got his law degree and is going into public service law. So it's a third generation activist. And I think we do that. Yes, we're working hard and we have our careers, but let's see how we can involve the family, because my children learn so much. My youngest daughter ended up being on one of the youth teams, that went out and educated in the high schools and stuff. That's how you build your skills. And I want to say one other thing. Your life is so beautiful because you've dedicated yourself to service. And that's so powerful, and I love the way you give others the credit, because that's the mark of a true leader. They say when the real leader has left, the people will say, we did it ourselves. So that's such a beautiful thing.
And I thank my comadres for everything they've done and all they've stood for and the support that they have done.
And I think that kind of leadership is so Latino, the idea of collaboration. I call it leadership by the many, that the only way we're going to lift up as a people is to have everyone do their part and have everyone feel like they can make a contribution. Everyone has something to contribute into to be a leader. And then
you say that so clearly in your book, Juana,
well,
which is truly something I hold dear.
Yeah, even this podcast or this series, I hope will inspire people to say, well, wait a minute, how can I up my leadership? How can I serve at a higher level? What's my long-term vision about my life? How can I move forward with that? So before we get into Las Comadres, give people a little bit of a challenge and some ways you handle challenges, a challenge in your life, so that we can learn from you.
Well, since I don't think of things as challenge. Well, I guess I do I just figure out how to go around whatever it is that's in my way,
Yeah.
And so I have trouble coming up with things like that.
I love this because this is positive thinking, folks. In Chinese, in the Chinese language, challenge is also opportunity. It's the same word. And because leaders are lifelong learners like you are, they see challenges as an opportunity for growth and development. I think we're a little nuts that way.
I think we are. I do recall that there was one job that I was very, very interested in, and I was the leader of a Hispanic organization. And I applied for that job 5 times, at least 5 times.
Okay, she applied 5 times, folks.
and I think maybe one time I got an interview. And then, I thought, okay, I'm going to put my energy someplace else. That came back to me later and asked me to run the organization. and I did. I said, I'm busy doing other things. I filled my life with lots of things that were of interest to me. And you know what? I'll do it for 1 year while you find your leader, but then I'm out of here. And then at the end of that, or getting close to that, they weren't even looking. And I said, you know what? In 2 months, I'm gone. So you need to find my replacement. I resign effective such and such a day, to make sure that they found somebody, and they found somebody excellent. But it took, I had to say, I'm leaving. But two things out of that. One is my persistence paid off in that they knew both what I could do, because I had done many things during that time period, and they knew who I was and that I was visible in the community. They knew that, they knew my skills. They also knew that when I said I'm leaving, I was serious. So I remember.
You're not fooling around. But you said something really interesting that I want to emphasize for the folks that are listening. They knew you from your involvement in the community, and I know you've served on many boards and you've helped many people, and that's so important. If people want to get noticed and want to get promoted, plus all the skills you learn through serving on a nonprofit board or serving on committees or helping with special events. Wow, what skills you acquire. That's one of the fastest pathways to really increase your career. And of course, Las Comadres is all about networking, because that's the other thing. You have to have that track record. You have to be visible, and you get visible through your network as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a great challenge. And I like the idea that they came to you, because I tell people that I did get hired to be the director of Mi Casa back in the 70s, and I've never applied for another job since.
That's true. I've never applied.
I have my own business now, but I mean, basically, people will come find you if you really prepare yourself, make yourself visible, make yourself known. And more than that, have that heart of service that you have, because then people trust you.
Yes.
So they came and helped you. Well, that's a great challenge. I think it's time for us, and we probably should have a drum roll, because we're going to talk about Las Comadres para las Americas. And while we're at it, shall we invite, now you've done a very special thing that the Latino community is struggling with. Tell them what you're doing, because there's the wonderful Maria online.
Well, Las Comadres is a passion. And again, my husband gifted this organization to me because he knew I was doing this, and he knew he had the technology background to help me. I was at the right time at the right place. Okay.
And
lots of people. 2000, the year 2000.
24 years ago.
Yes. Next year is our 25th anniversary.
Yeah. Great lesson for young people. I know some of you may not even be 25, but things take time. And what you need to understand is, like I stayed at Mi Casa 10 years, that sometimes it really does take the effort of a leader to stay there and guard the organization.
Right. And so I have not, in those 24 years, there's been no salary. Okay. So again, the organization was gifted and the technology backbone was there, but it was by my husband gave it to me. His name is Jack Bell. I want that on the record. And it's
so
really,
ladies, marry well or get a partner, then we'll be supportive.
That's right. You just need support. He was there for me, has been there all these years. But the important thing is he saw my vision. He saw my passion. He saw me working in the community. He saw the need in our community. And he said, go do it. It makes you happy. And you're out of my hair. So that kept me very, very busy. What he didn't know is I had to have his help. So he was in with me all these years he's been there. So it was really
first. Okay, great. We got your husband.
Yes. So
we're very proud of you, but tell us a little bit about you and how you got this vision and what inspired you.
Well, it was in many places, but in Austin especially, I looked around for the Latinas, and unless I was involved with the Hispanic Chamber, we weren't any place else. On the boards I served on, the many things I did, there was no Latinas, maybe one here and there, but, we didn't connect real well for whatever reason. We won't go into that here. But I felt lonely, and I said, where are the Latinas? Where are the Latinas? So there was a couple of young attorneys at the time who pulled us all together for a gathering. And there was about 50 people at that gathering. And it was a handwritten invitation. Okay. It was a handwritten invitation with a stamp on the envelope. And, then there were a couple of other follow-ups with that, but they said, hey, we're attorneys. We're busy with our lives. We don't have time for this. It's going to die. thank you all very much. It's gone. And I said, oh, no, no, wait a minute. I've been wanting to do this for a very, very long time. So I'll do it. I'll take care of it. So I took over Austin because this was a local Austin network. Okay. That was Austin. And then I built it up, and it took years. Believe me, it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of years. But then there was an article in the newspaper in 2002, October the 8th. And that article interviewed me, and it was 2 full-page spreads of interview and photographs. And and so that's where viral happened. Okay.
Yeah, it
People
was like
all
viral.
over the country somehow learned about the organization.
And again, which magazine was this?
It was the Austin American Statesman. It was a newspaper article.
Austin American Statesman.
Mhm.
Statesman.
And so they interviewed me for 9 hours for this full page spread. And it also included my email address, and that I was creating a culture club, one Latina at a time. And 500 people replied to that email.
Wow.
And as last year, somebody told me that's how I got involved with Las Comadres. And furthermore, somebody else told me I kept it in my drawer, and then I found it, and it was years later, and I logged on, or I signed in, and you were still here. I was so thrilled. So that article was impactful, and it went all over the country, and people started calling me and saying, please come to our city. So I took, and I take credit for, creating the national and international Las Comadres para las Americas. I did not create the Austin network, but I created the national and international network. And I would tell them, let me tell you how to do it. I don't need to be there. It's very simple. And they said, oh, no, we want you to come. Well, because my husband had traveled all over the world doing the work that he did, he had a gazillion air miles, and he didn't want to set foot in an airplane. So I got him. So I traveled
Another blessing from your partners.
all over the country. And I would say, but I can get there, but I don't have any money for a hotel. I don't have anywhere. And they said, we'll pick you up and you can stay at our house. So that's the way it started. And I've stayed in comadres homes all over this country.
Even
all over the
Casa Su
world, actually.
Casa. If you want to
That's
come to
right.
Denver, where I'm at, Mi Casa Su Casa.
I know.
You know, that's very similar to, and I'm not going to get into it, but with the National Hispano Leadership Institute going across the country. And I'm going to be interviewing Denise today, who did a movie called Project Enye, and she did the same thing all over the country. You know, it's interesting because that's not for everybody. But I always tell folks, well, if you want to start a national organization or an international organization, and I know that many of our young people are digital now and have relationships that are digital, but many times it requires you going out and making those personal contacts, particularly in our community, because we're a people-centered culture where relationships and people and getting to know people, and the whole concept of comadre is a relationship, you know. So thank you for doing that, Nora. And tell us what the vision was. I know one was that you were lonely, but I wrote down also that you had said that this was an opportunity for Latinas to network, to initiate kind of a Latina movement in a sense.
And we called it a movement in the beginning. And actually, it's because I had a lot of social capital. And so did a bunch of other Latinas. And I mean, they were on boards I wasn't on. But that social capital, what do you do with it when you die? Nothing. So you better start figuring out how to share, open doors, how to take care of each other and support each other. That social capital is critical. So that's what they say, hey, you know, Las Comadres has nothing I need. And I say, well, no, did it occur to you we need you? We need you to help us open doors. We need your social capital to help other Latinas. So, you know, that it's really important to give. And so the social capital is important. The culture, you know, we need to maintain our culture and our language. A lot of us do not speak Spanish, and many do not speak it well, but it doesn't matter whether you speak it or not. You still have the corazon. You know, you still grew up. You have something about the culture calls you. So culture, you know, how to preserve it, salsa, how to preserve it, how to take care of each other that way. And so culture, and then of course technology, because it's technology that's going to give us opportunities that if people don't live in your neighborhood or they don't know you or can't get to something, now with technology, especially after COVID, Zoom became a thing, and we were trying to do everything on the phone. The kind
Yeah.
of work we do on the phone was very difficult. The fact that I had 20,000 comadres built from email and phone, I think is pretty impressive. And of course, then again, today we've got Zoom, so we can be international.
Right. And we can connect this way. Well, first of all, Maria, welcome. Um, so one of the things we need to talk about is intergenerational leadership because we're going through a tremendous generational change. 10,000 baby boomers retire every day, and you can see from my lovely silver hair, gracias a COVID. I used to dye it before that. But it's a COVID bonus, my hair. Anyway, so Maria, when did you become a comadre? This is such an important thing because we're going through this transition of leadership where the older or the more seasoned Latinas are beginning to retire or go to the happy hunting grounds, shall we say?
We're
I
not
want to
letting
go
that
visit
happen
my
to Nora.
relatives.
We're not letting go.
Yeah, and so this transformation and leaving leadership to the next generation. If we don't do that, we won't be able to continue the momentum. So when did you become a comadre, and what inspired you to step up and be the next generation of comadritas?
Well, I've been a comadre for 17 years.
Whoa!
And I actually joined the comadres because, like Nora was saying, you look around corporate America. I live in New York, okay? Very corporate America. And that's all I've known and all that that's where my interests are. And but I looked around and there were three Latinos in my company.
Wow!
I was the only one on the corporate side. The other one was a secretary and the other one worked in the mailroom. There were no Latinos. And so I was trying to, and at the same time, I realized how, like all my college years, and I was, an English major, all the literature that I was reading was, I read some Spanish literature, but it was basically English people. It was Shakespeare. And then when they wanted to be
We all
diverse,
know
it
the
was
story.
Indian
Yeah.
authors and Chinese author, but they were never Latino authors. So I started for myself. I was on a mission to read as many Latino authors as possible. But I didn't like to read alone and I wanted to form a book club. So I talked to a
I
friend
have to
who
say
had a
one thing
friend who
right
had a
here
friend
about the
who
book
introduced
clubs.
me to the comadres.
Yeah, Maria, the book clubs. We don't retain knowledge unless we share, unless
That's
we
right.
connect it to our experiences. And so, you can read a book, but how many books have we read? But if you get into a comadre book club and you talk about the book and you talk about the lessons and so forth, it makes reading so much more practical and so much
Yes,
more
yeah.
applicable that you can use what you read. So tell me a little bit about your background. You grew up in New York?
I'm a New Yorker. Well, I'm Puerto Rican. I was born in Puerto Rico.
So you're
And we grew up in Puerto Rico. But then, my father was a traveling salesman. So we would like 1 year be in Puerto Rico, 1 year in New York. But then when we started growing, the school system told my mother that she had to pick because since the two schools were not, the two school systems on the island and in the city were not aligned. If she kept doing that, they would put us back every year that we came back.
Wow.
So my mother talked to my father, they talked to my grandmother, and so they decided that we were going to stay in New York. So instead of going back and forth, we would only now go to Puerto Rico like for the summers and for Christmas. But
Yeah, I do have to say that I admire Puerto Ricanos so much because they keep connected to their culture, to the isla, to the island. And really, Puerto Rico is the only bicultural, bilingual place on the hemisphere. I mean, you all are so bilingual, bicultural, and have contributed so much. And it's so great because the comadres, and the picture of the comadres is behind her, by the way. That's our logo. Yeah, look at that, of all the different shades of brown that we are. And so, yeah, it's wonderful to have you with us. So here you are in corporate America, and then we're going to move to Comadres, and you
So then I
decided,
discovered I wanted to find people to read with. And a friend of mine introduced me to the Comadres. And then I realized that it was, I thought I was joining a book club. And she's like, no, 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 we're more than that. So all of a sudden, I was in a room with about 30 Latinas. And I was like, oh my God, I found them. And it was so inspiring and so motivational. And then I was hooked. And that was good. And then every time Nora came to town, oh my God, we threw a party. We threw a party because she had so much wisdom to share. And she was talking to other Latinas in other states, in other cities. So we didn't feel like we were alone. We didn't feel like, okay, so this is, a little Manhattan group. No, we were part of a bigger tapestry. And Nora gave us that. She was the connection, and she's still the connection. There's still the glue,
oh yeah, but the glue's being passed over to you. So we want to know a little bit about why you stepped up to the plate. And let's give a cheer for that, because it's really hard to do. We know that transitions and legacy planning is hard. So tell us your inspiration for joining.
Well, I was just a member, because when you join, you're basically just a member. And then, I became more and more involved with the Comadres in New York City. And then I worked my way up to being a facilitator, which means that, there's not just me, there's 4 of us. In New York, there's 4 facilitators. So what we do is, because everybody was working and everybody had kids and stuff, we would take turns being the lead person to call the monthly meetings, to be there, to make sure that people were networking, that people were connecting, and sharing information that could help the individual or the individual family or the community at large. So, I was doing that for many years. And then, of course, COVID happened to us and everything. And, Nora was saying, I'm going to retire. But of course, we didn't believe her. And, but she wanted, she had a lot on her plate. And, and there were other peoples that we worked with. And so I was very honored when she asked me, if I could, help. And then, I wrote a proposal and everything, what my visions were, and if they meshed with hers and with the Comadres board. And we had a meeting, and yes, we all mesh. We all want prosperity for the Comadres, for our members, for our communities, for Latinos worldwide. The Latino voices have been silenced enough, and Nora has been a shout in our community, and we want to keep that, that grito going. In Puerto Rico, they have the grito de Lares. So we want that grito de Comadres going.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're here for. And, yes, I may be like the executive director, but I'm taking my cue from Nora. What she did was that she got all of us together, and she started, making sure that we all do our part,
Yes.
to uphold
But
the
let me ask you this,
organization.
and
So
I
that's
guess,
what we
Nora,
want to
you
do,
can chime in on this.
involve everyone.
Yeah, so I'm listening to this, and I want to be a comadre, which we all are, and it's such a beautiful term in our community. It symbolizes the fact that Latinos are so inclusive, and that we have the concept that we're family or community, that we're connected by our culture, our history, our language, our spiritual beliefs. So I'm going to sign up as a comadre. Explain to me what that means and what the organization offers. And let's start with you, Nora, and then back over to Maria. So I'm joining up. What is Las Comadres?
It's a support system. It's a sisterhood.
A support system, a sisterhood. Speak up really loud.
And it's also a way of sharing your social capital, preserving your culture.
Yeah, and sharing your social capital, for people that don't know, that means us helping each other. If you're on a board or a committee, or you see a job opening up in your corporation, a good program that's going to help women become, more assertive or whatever, you're really there to provide that information and resources and open doors. And if we do it for each other, it's such a powerful concept. How about you, Maria? Would you add anything to that?
No, that's about when you come into the comadres, we want you to feel at home that this is, your new family. You know, Nora purposely, there are no dues, there's no attendance taken, So, sometimes comadres come and they're comadres for like a year and then they have a baby or they have to go to school, so they drop out. But we tell them, whenever you're ready, we're here for you. It's like family. This door is always open. Okay, we are always here for you. And
But
that's what we have.
but you can't drop out because you don't have to attend. So you still receive the emails. You can be a part of Las Comadres, uh, online network. You don't have to physically do anything. We don't require it. So people don't have to
I
drop out.
love this. This is Latino inclusiveness at,
Yes. We
at
tell
the
them we're like
highest
the
level.
mafia. We're like the mafia. You
Yeah.
join us and you're here for life.
You're like the mafia. You're here for life.
You're here for
Well,
life.
I always say with the Latino community that our relationships are forever. I've known Nora for decades, and many of the women will be interviewing. And I really want to send that out with mucho corazón for the young people. Your relationships are for life. The folks that you work with, the folks that you know in your community that you serve with, this is a lifelong journey that we're all on together, particularly as Latinos or Latinas.
You have stayed in my home.
Yes, yes. And I mean that of bringing that concept of family and community back to America. Because, today all the statistics are showing that people feel isolated. They don't feel connected, that we've lost our sense of community, of being part of a larger community. And then that we also have divisions in our society. So the Latinos, we're here to heal that. We know that we're familia, and we know that we're community, and we know that we're different. We're so different. We're come from 26 countries. We have all the different races, all the nationalities, but there's a common core that we care about the future.
And that's what we have in the
care about our
comadres.
children.
Comadres
And
are
we
Puerto
care about
Rican,
educating
Dominican,
ourselves. So, I mean, these
Mexican,
book clubs.
Venezuelan, Argentinian, we have everything. And like
Everybody.
Nora says, the social capital is so important, especially nowadays, post-COVID and stuff. Zoom took off and we jumped right on it. We wanted to make sure during those times where people were isolated, we were on Zoom practically 2-3 times a week.
Yes.
Just talking to people, making sure they were okay. Sometimes we had serious discussions. Sometimes we just played bingo,
Or
They don't
crochet.
together.
Or
We had a crochet club and everything.
I think to entice the younger generation, we're going to have to play Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Get some good music going as well.
Well, the
right?
other thing about the younger generation, they're so important to us. I don't know how to talk to them. I don't have young children. So we need to bring more of the young people into Las Comadres and to our organizations because we have to learn from them about their needs. And we have to figure out a way to talk to each other and be connected. They need us and we need them.
Yeah, I had a question. I said, because this is an intergenerational conversation. What do young leaders have to teach these elders or salty dogs, as we might be called? Because I learn from younger people every single day. And the other thing is that young people have hope and they're looking towards their future, and they inspire me because I can see that they are the future and that they will carry the Latino community to the next level. I always say the first Latino president has been born, and it's going to be a Latina. So let's get ready for this.
Yes, no, that sounds good. And one good thing about the comadres, especially talking about multi-generational, you would be amazed at how many comadres bring their daughters, grown daughters. We're not talking about, bring your kid to work and your kid is like 10 years old. A lot of comadres bring their daughters and their daughters become comadres, because they come, oh, I'm just gonna, I'm just here for mommy, and but they look and they're like, oh my God, this works, and they make their own friends, they make their own connections, similar interests gravitate together. Some comadres are bringing their sisters, oh, I have a sister in Florida. She's all by herself, let me hook her up with comadres in Florida. you know? And, so cousins are joining together, sisters are joining together, mother, daughters are joining together. It's very beautiful when they all, come together and they participate in something. It's amazing.
Well, the
So
other thing,
go ahead, Nora.
when you move, if you live in DC or you live in New York and you move to Texas or you move to Los Angeles, it's instant network. You do not walk in there alone. We immediately connect you and you make best friends from
And how
from the
much of
get-go.
it's virtual and how much have you been able to do in-person networking?
We're back to in-person networking in about 10 cities. See, I'm starting them over.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of starting over.
Yeah, we
after
don't need
COVID.
to do that. But if you get involved for the folks that are listening, that that's a whole thing that we need to do because we need to have both virtual and in person because it's
Yeah.
so
A
important.
lot of the groups are also, like we have a group like Terry's Inland Empire group in California. They've been together 15 years, so after COVID, again, everybody's on Zoom and we're all connecting. They're back together. So some of these groups are strong enough that they just came back on their own. We didn't
Yeah.
have to prompt them. There's some that were, people moved away because they, they had to move to take care of their parents or they got scared and they moved out of town.
Right.
And so some of the smaller ones broke up, but those were connecting together via Zoom. So we have, Zoom meetings, comadrazos that keep those
Quarterly.
people together.
Yeah. So,
So-
and all of this is on your website, Las Comadres de las Americas.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have
I was
Comadres para Las
going
América
to-
website, and
Yeah.
then we have the book club, which the book club has its own website, latino lit.com, and we also have a YouTube channel because we've been taping everything, so comadres don't miss anything. So our YouTube channel has everything.
Okay, yeah, we're going to put all that information will be there.
Absolutely.
I do want to emphasize for folks because they go like, oh, networking. When you look at leadership success, we talked a little bit about young people being competent, particularly if they want to move up and want to say, I'm ready for a challenge or looking for a new job. You really have to be good at what you do and be ready. The second thing is that you need to have a good image and be ready for that job in that way. Although image has changed with different generations, you still have to look put together so that people can trust that you can do things. But the number one thing that promotes people is their network. It's like 60% of your success is who you know, what you
It's who you
learn from
know.
other people, the doors that are open, the opportunities. So when you talk about a huge networking event and this kind of an organization, people might think, wow, why should I do that? And that's because you're going to learn from others. But more than that, you're going to find opportunities and ways to grow and learn and advance yourself and be of service to others, to share your. And social capital is an interesting word, folks. It was coined around the 90s, and it means that you can't forget that people are the essential part of any organization. You can talk about fiscal or you can talk about, who's on the board or whatever, but it's the people inside, the capital that people bring, their talent, their connections, their resources, their experience, their ability to serve, to help grow people. That social capital is what makes things work. So Las Comadres is Latina social capital on steroids.
Yes.
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 All right.
Thank
So the
you.
last word, what is this legacy? If you could do a magic wand, you look at Las Comadres, Latinos really are at the crossroads of power because of our numbers, because of our youth, because of our values, our history, because we're getting educated today and we're ready to contribute at a very high level. So what do you think our legacy, the legacy of Comadres will be in the future? For young people that are listening,
Nora?
It's connection
connection.
and support. It's community connection and support. That's
Beautiful.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
the connection that makes
important
everything.
for us. Yeah. Maria?
No, it's connection. We even have a newsletter, and that's the name of our newsletter.
Connection.
Comadres Connect.
Yeah.
You know, that's our whole purpose. Comadres Connect. Personally, socially, you know, business. We try to be, you know, Nora has showed us how to be a tapestry, and we are everywhere. You know, we're expanding everywhere, you know, across the US, across the Americas, Europe. We even have comadres in Singapore. So, you know, we
Well, what
are,
I really love is that Latinos are international, and we
Yes.
really have to see ourselves that way because we're the bridge across the Americas and we're in 26 countries. And this is an opportunity for Latinos to connect across the world and to bring our beautiful values of family and relationship and helping one another and supporting one another into the mainstream. So part of our power is to be collective. And Las Comadres offers that platform for everyone that is listening. So thank you all for being the beautiful, wonderful comadres that you are. Thank you for bringing this concept because it elevates our relationships. We don't have, hermanas, great. I love that. We are hermanas. But the idea of comadre is that you're part of the family and that you're there to support and help and learn and grow together. So thank you all so much for all the work you're doing. And I hope folks will get right online and be comadres. Gracias por todos que hacen y adelante. Let's enjoy Hispanic heritage.
Thank you, Juana. Thank you so much for your leadership across all the years. Your books tell our story the very best.
Thank you, Laura. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you, comadres, as well. I hope they're listening in so they can
Yes.
see what a wonderful job you guys are doing.
And thank you, Maria, for taking this.
Yeah, Maria,
Impossible
you're
job.
our heroine, our shiro.
She is.
Yes.
I'm
Adelante.
taking my cue from Nora.
Have a
All right, thank you. Take care.
Oh, bye-bye.